What's up, guys? It's day 172 on our journey to 2000, and in today's video I'm going to show you guys some stuff I studied with the Pirc defense, and then we're going to play a 15-minute game, rapid game on chess.com. So let's get into it. So yesterday I went over 8 variations of the Austrian attack. You guys could check that out in yesterday's video. Today I'm going to show you guys the classical and the variations that they show on this Chessable course, which is free. You could find it online. I'm not sponsored or anything. It's called the short and sweet Pirc defense. The Pirc starts like this. It always starts like this. But the classical, the main defense, is played like this. And usually classical openings or the classical variation of openings is just when people fight for the center. They develop normally. It's kind of the normal or old school style of way of looking at chess. You don't and Kewl bishops and stuff like that. You kind of put direct pressure towards the center and stuff like this, from my understanding. And this is kind of originated with Steinitz, who was the first world champion in chess, and others. So here, because you play classically, you just go into the Pirc defense normally, which is a and Kewl bishop and a castle. And here, white kind of just develops normally, castles. And here, the instructors of the course kind of said that a6 is a really good move because it's flexible. First, it stops the knight and bishop from coming in. Second, you kind of want to wait to see what else happens before pushing forward. And third, if they go to a4 like this person did, it weakens the b4 square. It stops ideas of b5, but there is no real idea of b5. The ideas is basically to get the knight into the game, from my understanding. I think knight comes to c6, and then it could come to b4 in the future. So the next move here, I think, was developing the knight. And then they go over different variations of how white can respond. So one is obviously the knight can get attacked. It looks like the knight is trapped or is forced to trade here and double pawns in the center. Or you come to this square, which is another reason we play a6 to give our knight another square to go to. But for now, because he pushed to a4, we can actually bring our knight forward. Now, this is a very clever move to try to trap the knight. So before it wasn't close to being trapped. I'm sorry, because I could have returned there. But now this is kind of clever to bring the rook to a4 and essentially trap the knight. So we have to make space for our knight. One way of doing this is attacking the center, and if he tries to trap, protecting it like this. An en passant would be likely. You just take back with the knight, and that's basically the position. So, I mean, they say black is fine in this position, but you need to avoid a pitfall. If white plays bishop g5, you need to avoid knight g5. So it looks like you could just win this pawn over here, but you can't, because e5 wins for white. Knight's getting attacked, can't move it because you lose the queen. Queen is just overloaded, protecting the knight too. So if the queen moves out of the way, it's like, let's say the pawn takes back, queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes, bishop takes. Now this knight is hanging for free for white. Okay, the second version here starts the same exact way. Both sides castle. You do this flexible a6 move. You go knight c6. But now it's showing what if, they're flexible again, stopping any knight or bishop moves to g4. How do you respond here? And from what I recall, I think striking back in the center is the idea here. I mean, there's really nothing else you can do. The bishop doesn't have a good place to go to. I think you strike back in the center. Now if the knight gets attacked, you don't go forward because it could get trapped, and what is it doing there? You actually go back. And here I thought this was very kind of interesting, this position, because the idea here I think is pretty advanced, at least for me, but very common in King's Indian and maybe Pirc defense systems, and maybe modern defenses. And the point is you move the knight out of the way and you strike back right away. The knight can come forward, and now you have this sort of position. And it says computers love white, but it is not clear at all in a game between humans. Engines tend to overestimate static features, so don't be scared to enter such a position. I think a lot of this course is getting a Pirc defense user or player to having more fun kind of play with this opening. But it's a very crazy opening. Just so much involved. Maybe every opening's like that. I don't know. Here we have 2 more versions of this classical variation. Here he castles. Again, we go for the flexible move. Nothing is different here. We strike the center, and instead of going forward, your opponent can take. You end up trading a lot of stuff. He could take, but then he gives you the open file, so I guess that's why computer says no to that. And here there's a lot of tricky stuff. This bishop is eyeing the pawn. The knight can come in and be very annoying over here, possibly in the future. This knight can come here. So computer, the bishop can come here, pinning the knight to the queen. So the guy, I keep saying, the people who made the course said h6 is a good way to stop the bishop and knight from coming in. And basically, there's a bunch of different things people can do, but you want a certain sort of setup. That includes also queen e7 and bishop e6. Idea being, if bishop takes, you don't ruin your pawn structure in front of the king. Okay, and then it's saying the knight can come here and here. Rooks are connected. We can try to use d4 or b4 for the knight. And it equalizes the position. And the last classical position here, again, we start with all these same moves. If the bishop comes out here, we just kind of do this. And this is actually pretty interesting. You don't go for this knight h5 attack, which I feel like old me would do just because. I think they want us to go b5 to threaten b4 and attacking the knight. And then just slowly but surely improving the position. The idea here is if the pawn pushes, there's too many pieces defending. I think I recall correctly, which maybe there aren't too many. Takes. Yeah, I think it's okay to be down a pawn in this situation, or maybe not. Okay. So here was the fianchettoing the bishop. I forget, I get confused a little bit between some of them. Fianchettoing the bishop, I guess putting more pressure on the center. You could go rook e8 also, I think, at a certain point. Okay, now you push the center. You see? I'm crazy. And you are down a pawn. Or I think they want us to take with this rook. You are down a pawn. But the idea here is that you're fine. By the way, if the bishop moved back to f1, we do have a trick here. I'm sorry. Then knight h5 is really strong, attacking the bishop and having a discovered attack on the knight in the center. In this case, that's how this goes along. And because I made a mistake, it's going to want me to do the same moves over and over. So I need to study it more, as you guys can tell. It says black has excellent compensation for the pawn. With c5 and b4, we can increase the pressure on e4, which I don't completely understand, to be honest, but I'm still learning. Then I learned one flexible move, where instead of the knight, instead of the Austrian attack with pawn f4, the bishop comes to the center. And with this, we don't bring the bishop here because we don't know what our opponent will do. They might transpose into other lines that could be dangerous if we castle kingside right away. So again, going with this flexible a6 move. I think also b5 here. Knight comes here. It's going to go to b6, putting pressure potentially like this in the future. And then when they push this pawn forward, a very natural move in the Pirc is just to counter it like this. This knight has, you see, some of their explanations are very straightforward to me and make a lot of sense, like this move, right? h4, h5 is a counter. It makes a lot of sense. You don't want the pawn to get in. You don't want this open file for all his pieces. So the knight here, positioned here, can come here or here and be annoying in the position, whereas our bishop, light-squared bishop, isn't doing much. This is why I get confused with this in the classical variation that we just looked at, because in the one we just looked at, coming to b7 actually helps put pressure in the center. Here, it's better just to get rid of the bishop if you can, like there. And then finally, after all of this, you kind of want to stop all these pawn progressions, get the queen out of the center, and putting more support, I guess, in this way. And then finally, you could develop your bishop. And here it says the position is complex and offers plenty of play for both sides. So I'm still going through this course. Really interesting. I'm going to show you guys what I go through as I go through it. And let's play a 15-minute game and see what happens. Let's see if we get black. We got black. Maybe we could get into the Pirc. This could transpose into the Pirc. Let's see what happens. Hey, they go for Queen's Gambit English. But this is an English opening. Maybe I need to learn how to do the English opening. See, I didn't look at any lines that have to do with this. To be honest, though, I'm just going to play it normally. I think it's fine. Now it says Old Indian. So now it's King's Indian Defense. And here, the difference is this pawn is more advanced, which seems more annoying. Maybe c6 is an option here. We have 15 minutes, so I should take my time. Does the fianchetto work? Right away, of course, I think of a push. Takes, 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 takes. And I have this knight move countering back. So I think this trick works kind of often. Let's see what happens. Okay, our opponent plays h3. Seems like they want to push. I think we have to start counterattacking on the other side. c5 to damage the structure of the center. Don't think really works. Castling looks a little scary. And this move stops our knight g4 idea. So if we castle and he pushes and we take and he takes, our knight might have to block in our bishop and go to d7. But then we put more pressure here. So it might be okay. Let's do that. Okay. So this transposes into a King's Indian, which I guess the only difference is this pawn from a Queen's Gambit type-esque opening. So I need to learn how to play against this because I think this is one of the most common ways people play. Because d6 looks like a weird move to most people, and then they go into the Queen's Gambit, which they're probably more comfortable with. He's putting more pressure on e5, so if push, takes, you take with the knight, maybe we bring the knight to d7 and try to go for a c5 push. I'm into some attacks. Here, if he pushes the center, we take, maybe, take, we're up a pawn, if I could do math correctly. He could go to the center, but that doesn't really matter. He could push the other pawn. He could push the other pawn, but then our c-pawn protects. What if we go c5 right away? He takes, 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 takes. This knight could get in, and then we could go for a trade. That could work. Maybe c5 is the best move. Now, what if he pushes? We take, he takes. No, he takes with the knight. We push. Wait, what am I saying? If we push, he pushes. We take. No, it transposes to the other idea. So let's go knight d7, see what happens. Our idea is to go c5. So this is starting to look kind of like a Pirc defense. Except, again, this pawn. In the Pirc, we go b6 to fianchetto the bishop when their bishop goes to e3 sometimes. I think this is not a bad idea to put pressure here. Maybe. If we push here and he takes, this guy knows his theory, it feels like. We take, I actually think it might be okay because we damage stuff. What do I mean by that? Here, takes, 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 back, takes, takes. I think we're winning. Now, what if he pushes the pawn forward? Here, and he pushes the pawn forward. We could ruin the structure there. What? He resigned. Was it because I was playing too slowly? He's playing another game. His highest rating is 1579, which was achieved today. It doesn't show his bar. He's only played 18 games. So it seems like a new account of someone who already knows how to play. Maybe he's a higher rating. And he resigned a game that wasn't done. I've never had that happen to me. Let's game review. Oh my god, he played with 98.2% accuracy. All of that was book moves. Okay, interesting. And apparently the King's Indian have a 36% win rate. Jesus Christ. Let's see. The knight move wasn't good, and I was losing from that move. The best move was to strike in the center. If takes, takes. What if takes, takes, takes? Why didn't I just down a pawn? Oh, this is similar to one of the lines we just looked at, I feel like. But this is very complicated. Jesus Christ. Wow. What a crazy position. Okay, well, instead he resigned. I was thinking of c5, but again, e5 is the best move here. If he plays d5, we have f5. I think that's in line with these types of openings. And if he takes, we probably... Okay, we take with the knight. He takes, we take with the bishop. So what does c5 do? c5 is not a great move. Maybe it's an inaccurate move, I'm not sure. Our opponent could take, obviously. They could also go forward. And if they went forward, I was just going to take their knight, possibly. Maybe I would spend more time thinking about it. So if he takes here, I think I was thinking check, takes, takes. Right, something like this. And if takes, 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 I felt like this was winning. Because the pawn structure looks terrible for him. And we have everything connected. That being said, if he pushed forward instead, what if I took now? Of course, I'm getting rid of my strong bishop, so this puts me at a disadvantage, it seems like. And also, his bishop is still alive, so my dark squares are very weak. I think that's the idea. So if he went forward, would breaking this open be a move? Looks like that's potentially okay. But the computer likes knight e5. So that if takes, I probably just take with the bishop and the game continues. Maybe queen a5 is common here. Oh, because I explained the openings earlier today, I think we're going to end the video here. I know it was a very short video, but now we're rated 1678. We're catching back up slowly to our peak rating. Very slowly, but going back to 1700, so that's nice. If you watched this far, say Moko. This guy's name, M-O-K-O. Sounds cool. Have a great one.